Hey everybody, a little different type of video today, but let's go for it. And I asked a question on Twitter the other day about what everyone considers a AAA VR game, or at least close to it. And of course, the answers were all pretty similar. It was a small list which included some titles like Half-Life Alyx, Asgard's Wrath, Lone Echo, Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, Boneworks, and a few more, but that was it for the majority consensus. And I asked this question after reading a fantastic article by Thomas Curtis of VR Focus titled "Why Now is the Time for AAA Studios to Consider VR?" So yeah, I copped his title. He had a set of points he discussed, and while I see merits to all four, let's hone in on three important talking points that I do hope to see more discussions around in the future. And also no, I do not think we need more AAA titles right this exact second, and neither does Thomas, but the future is what we're looking at, so let's clear things up. Also, you're gonna see some snap turning here. I'm playing to win, y'all, so yeah. I remember when I started playing VR, I'm talking DK2, CV1, original Vive days, VR mechanics were everywhere. VR had its jankiness, and core VR game design principles were exactly all over the place, and they still can be like that, but the majority of developers have now found their stride and best practices. As pointed out by Thomas Curtis, climbing feels pretty good now in VR, movement and comfort options are standard to fit each person, gunplay is both intuitive and is more realistic as ever, and inventory and body controls are much more smooth and realistic, but the most important is the fine details like physics, really showing the blueprint for a VR game success. I mean, hell, I'm one update away in Half-Life Alyx to popping open bottles and getting drunker than a freshman at a fraternity party, but what I'm getting at here, and I agree 100% with Thomas, is we are at a point where design and implementation barriers for the blueprint to a successful VR game have been pretty much taken down. Those barriers are long gone. Since the knowledge barrier is broken down, you've got to ask, is the user base going to be there for when the next AAA title games get launched? Because AAA games in development aren't targeting what the VR base is now, they're basically targeting where it will be in 3 to 5 years or whatever down the road. Even with coronavirus being its usual dick self and supplies of headsets limited, this was happening with both Oculus and Valve headsets well before all this hit. You could search Craigslist and Reddit posts about people willing to sell their unborn child to finally get a headset, or this guy getting his daily dose of fiber by eating a sock quesadilla, but he did get an Oculus Quest, so I guess maybe he was the smart one here? Maybe I should eat a cardboard cutout of Lord Gabe and that might score me an index. Half-Life Alyx added almost 1 million additional users connected to Steam VR with a huge spike, driving it to 1.91% of Steam users actively using a headset, which equates to roughly 2.7 million users. We know Facebook will never admit their sales numbers because the Zuck don't snitch, but we know the Quest is selling as fast as they can make them, and with over 5 million PSVR sold and way more headsets not even accounted for on non-Steam connected platforms, there's a hefty user base that continues to show its exponential growth each time a large title hits. But what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because that's the heart of why right now is the time for AAA studios to consider VR and start developing for the future. Now, we're long past to me what Gen 1 VR was, if you even consider VR having generations. Mostly it's just slow drips of upgrades. The old problems have mostly been solved with realistic fixes, and they all will last quite a while. With the current line of Oculus, Valve, Vive, and now HP to a degree, I'd argue the hardware is good enough. Actually, no, it's definitely good enough, especially for a while. Look, I know everyone wants massive field of view, high resolution, super high refresh rate, finger tracking, even a virtual sexy maid in every home screen, whatever. Those are just a ways out at any price that won't immediately lead to a possible fraud detect from your bank. I shudder at the thought of my poor PC on the physical abuse that I'd have to pound into it by trying to run 2K per eye resolution at 144 Hz with 120 plus field of view. That's borderline abuse and a quick way to become an arsonist, setting your house on fire with your melted PC. But at the end of the day, even if you got your perfect headset of your dreams running flawlessly with 4K Kanojo goodness, you're playing exactly that, games that have been around for a long time, but just on a better headset. Many of them are great games, deservingly so, but many are older games, and as headsets keep improving, we need to see, or I want to see, the actual software improving parallel with it, because content is, of course, king. And if you're using a top-of-the-line, new age, new generation headset of the future, but you're playing super hot in Beat Saber, well, it's kind of like putting a sexy dress on my old roommate. It's not good for anybody. Big studios are hesitant to dive into a AAA VR game, most likely due to more money being immediately available in development of traditional gaming titles, but build the content and the money will follow. Maybe not this year, maybe not next, maybe not even 5 years down the line, but when your title launches, Later on in the future? Well, how about now? VR isn't dead, but it's still niche. But it has never stopped growing exponentially and will always be there, ready for a AAA title to make some money. Thomas sums it up pretty well. Whilst at one stage developing in VR was a daunting prospect, the core mechanics have been worked out and there's a healthy and rapidly growing user base that's craving AAA content. It's time for the big studios to get involved. I couldn't have said it better myself, buddy. If you enjoyed this type of video, y'all, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you get the alerts for Borderline daily videos at this point. I'm Eric for Present, and I'll see you on the next one, Space Cowboys.